Sorry, that got cut off abruptly, but we'll continue this, and I promise it won't be all that much longer, but there's a lot to cover with these authority figures. So you see, there's always some circumstances that's going to drive them out, either by hook or by crook, whether it's kayfabe or something that happened in real life. So, let me just adjust the screen for a second. Sorry, I kind of offset the video. So this is part 2 of authority figures in professional wrestling. Fast forward to June of 2000. Well, actually, let's go to May of 2000. Shawn Michaels actually, at that point in time, relinquished his role as commissioner, so that way he could be the guest referee for the Iron Man match between Triple H and The Rock at Judgment Day that year. And I didn't realize that you had to actually relinquish a pivotal role in order to be a guest referee, because a guest referee, I think, could have been anybody in any capacity. Or he actually might have cut this whole promo saying he wasn't giving the job its just due, its due diligence, and therefore thought he wasn't a good fit. And so that was from August of '99. He had not been seen till May of 2000 on WWF programming. A month later, he comes back, long after Judgment Day is well and done, and then he announces, we have a new commissioner, Mick Foley. And this is my favorite of all the authority figures. Mick Foley, June to December of 2000. As short a run as it was, boy, was it memorable. He did have a second run, which we're not going to get into because it was not fun or memorable, and I met Mick twice. Nicest guy in pro wrestling, by the way. It's no joke. He's really legit. Mick did say he didn't enjoy that second run as commissioner as much as the first, and he was ready to move on to other things post-wrestling. Didn't like the direction of the company with the invasion angle and what have you. But that was in the fall of 2001. But we're talking about the 2000 run. So I kind of look like him if he shaved my head off, maybe, and then I'd have to have 2/3 of my left ear missing. So yeah, there we go. Got a little Mick Foley action. Right here in Connecticut. Whatever city we're in. Right here in New Brunswick, New Jersey. What's the city that, East Rutherford? Right here, East Rutherford, New Jersey. Cheap pop, and that cheesy smile. Mr. Sacco, of course. He always set up his office backstage, and he was probably the most animated authority figure. While he was always on the side of the baby faces, he always seemed to have a theme of having these weird offices backstage, whether in the men's room, somebody's locker room, just in a hallway, on the back of a forklift. I remember talking to Pat Patterson, and he had a gavel with him for some reason. I happened to find one just for this segment alone. I don't remember exactly how I acquired this. I think this was my mother's when she was in like student government way back in the day or something. So Pat Patterson was trying to talk Mick Foley out of trying to get out of a match or make a decision about a match and taking it in a different direction, and Foley wasn't having it, and of course he said, "That's final!" Ow! Pat had his hand down there when he shouldn't have, and that's final. So that's where that whole hammer thing came into play. I remember he always tried to screw around with Edge and Christian. Edge and Christian tried to get out of a match at Fully Loaded 2000 against the APA for the tag titles, Acolytes Protection Agency. And Christian claimed to have food poisoning. So we thought he was legit throwing up, but he was actually pouring some toxic waste or whatever, something disgusting looking into the toilet with a paper cup. You were so totally busted, dude. Foley looks over the stall. You're defending those tag titles tonight. Oh, Mick, I really don't feel good. Such great stuff, great comedy. Chris Kresge, if he was writing this stuff, it's genius. Plus, Foley probably came up with this stuff half the time himself. The cameraman was always one to talk in his documentary, For All Mankind, is that what it's called? The one that came out in 2013, talked about the weird locations, as I alluded to, with the offices being backstage. But it all had to come to an abrupt end in December of 2000 when Mr. McMahon returned on screen. McMahon went away for a while for whatever reason. Then he returned on screen saying Foley has abused his power, and not only that, he lied about his retirement. Think about all those lost years with your wife and your children, and here you are trying to relive your glory days vicariously through the current talent pool we have. What's gotten into you, Mick? And then he was beaten up by Edge, Christian, Kurt Angle, William Regal on an episode of Raw in December of 2000, and he was busted open, wide open his cheek. Mick Foley, you're fired. Sad music plays. Wow. And we were authority figureless for a while till William Regal defeated Al Snow in an episode of SmackDown in March of 2001. Winner gets to be commissioner, and I thought it'd be fun to have Al Snow around. He would have been funny as hell, but he was filming Tough Enough 1 at the time in Stamford, Connecticut. So I think that SmackDown was taped in like Providence, Rhode Island. So they actually took the remaining cast members, all got front row seats, and was covered on episode Tough Enough. Al has a match on SmackDown tonight, so y'all got front row seats. So they got to watch him lose to William Regal. Regal cheated to win. I think Al was going to have like a midget, sort of like Wee Man from Jackass, be like his sidekick or his campaign manager or whatever. It didn't quite play out because Regal then won the commissionership role. And he did a fine job, may I say. After we were introduced to Tajiri, Regal and Tajiri were so great. I mean, he was supposed to be like the butler or whatever. Oh, I'm not going to deal with that miserable little toe rack in the ring tonight. But I tell you what, you get out there, you're going to face Triple H, and you're going to like it. But we didn't have Umanga yet. Umanga didn't come around till later. Regal was actually general manager many years later, in kind of a similar capacity, and that lasted, his role, Commissioner Regal, March to October of 2001. In the rematch to Unforgiven of 01, Austin and Angle, Austin challenged Angle for the World WWF title, and Regal actually was at ringside as a WWF commissioner to make sure no Alliance members interfered, only for Regal to play Benedict Arnold and turncoat on Angle like that, hit him with the belt, give Austin the win. Then he became the Alliance commissioner, and Linda McMahon fired him, brought back Mick Foley. And after Foley quit, and this was for real, quitting the company, they decided to abandon the commissioner role altogether. Now, for a while, we had a lieutenant commissioner during Foley's run. That was Deborah McMichael, Lieutenant Commissioner Deborah, from October 2000 to March of 2001. Then she went back to managing, mainly her husband, real-life husband at the time, Steve Austin. So she would just make the decisions when Foley was out, and, it was like president, vice president, basically. So then we have general managers. No, first we have co-owners, when Ric Flair stepped in as co-owner of the company after the Alliance folded. Shane and Stephanie sold their stock to the consortium. The consortium was Flair. We're partners! Woo! That lasted until the partnership was dissolved. Vince was full owner. Then we had general managers when we had the brand extension. General manager for Raw, general manager for SmackDown. And Eric Bischoff was the longest running general manager for Raw from 2002 to 2005. And then SmackDown had 4 different people. You had Stephanie McMahon, Paul Heyman, Kurt Angle very briefly, then Teddy Long, who lasted that role till like 2012. And he kept going back and forth between the assistant role depending on the storyline at the time. So Vince McMahon was definitely in the ownership spot, but he had 2 general managers working underneath him. So Vince could always overrule the general manager, especially Bischoff and Heyman. When Vince was a face, he could overrule their decision-making and make everything fair, at least in the moment. But he feuded with Stephanie and got her out of the role because in real life Stephanie was getting married and she didn't want to be on the road all that much after she'd gotten married. So they took her off TV. So I'm trying to think. You had other great general managers. You had Vicky Guerrero for SmackDown, and Teddy was like the assistant at the time. You had William Regal back in the saddle. Mike Adamle wasn't so great in that role, but that's no fault of his own. It's a sad story with him because now he has Alzheimer's. Who else is a good GM? I'm trying to think. It's such a revolving door over these years. I hated Brad Maddox. Don't even get me started on that douchebag. John Laurinaitis was good as the interim and then full-time for a while, especially when he bossed Teddy Long around. I was so sick of Teddy Long. Stupid, you're going one-on-one with The Undertaker, and then tonight's main event is a tag team match. It was so boring and predictable. Come on, and it was insulting. They could have done so much better, but Teddy Long will forever be the tag team Undertaker guy. Now you got Adam Pearce on Raw and Nick Aldis on SmackDown, and I don't know, it just doesn't have its originality like when Bischoff was running Raw and Stephanie was running SmackDown and things of that nature. So anyways, a lot of authority figures. I could go on, but I feel like I've spoke at length about many of them. So I want to hear who your favorites are, and maybe we can keep this discussion going. Sorry for the cutoff earlier, but this is the rest of it, and this was part 2. And altogether, it's been another great edition of Harry Fling Wrestling. I am your host, Harry Fling. Until next time, everybody, bye-bye. And that's final. Ow!